as far as expressing yourself with the designs that and the painting that's on the pottery. It's a storybook. It tells a story. It's not just decoration. For all potters, there's a reason why particular elements are put on a pot. They tell the story. Just like petroglyphs, when someone is passing through, they're seeing something happening during that passage through the area where they're beginning to do their artwork, the rock artwork. So that's their story. Just like our pottery here, the water vessel on the other side, with the avanu, um, it's always very very much present within our daily life, no matter what you're doing or not even thinking about it. You're partaking in the water itself to nourish yourself, but also at the same time you're nourishing what you're planting at the same time, and everything else that's around you. And she gives life to whatever she may touch as well. And here, with this, the carving here, very significant. It's what you also might see on the regalia of a lot of the kilts, the men's kilts and the women's, mantas, and as well as the belts, the red belts that you see the men wear or the women wear, drape around their waist. A lot of the designs are depicted within a lot of the regalia itself, and they tell a story. It's just like the rain sash, with the little round balls and then the rain coming down and the little round balls on top, significant of the clouds itself, So there's a lot of meaning within the carving itself, which tells that story.
Because art is our culture. Art is everything that really brings us together. It's without this the symbolism pieces us all together. It's what from the beginning of times, like the designs. Um, it, it helped us tell our stories. Through we have our oral history, but then we also have our written history. And these symbols and designs, they're our written history. So I think that's important, um, as an artist, and as a Pueblo community.
I love to do research and I love to paint, and some of these designs are done so they're done so intricate that they're very hard to study. It's just, I'll look at a piece and I'll try to figure out where the starting point was and where it ended. So there was a lot of thought that went into creating these designs. And I feel, back then, our ancestors didn't have some of the tools that we have today to make things easier to create. I give them so much credit because they were true masters of, design. And that was inspiring to me. And I just really thought, this is something I really want to study up on, is especially our ancestral pieces. There's so much stories behind their design work. There's so much about the shape and form of these vessels, and I just really think there was a lot of time and thought put into these pieces, because this was a time, different times of the seasons, different times of hardship, different times of abundance. They were still able to create continuously, and I really think that that's just they were creating pieces at a specific time, and it speaks about the time period that they lived in. And I thought that was really powerful.
Real elaborate designs. You know, I said earlier, oh, makes the food taste better. But you can also tell like the what the pueblos were going through at that time, or the San Ildefonso at that time. Um, if you look at the pottery, there's a period where maybe things in the pueblo were going really well, like the crops were growing real good, and um, there was no sickness and things like that. And so then you see these pots with really elaborate designs because people were freer and they had the time to, they had leisure time. So, some of this was done as just, um, painting designs was done in a way as leisure, as a relaxing activity too. These, when I'm painting, I don't use a ruler. I don't draw my design on the pot. I start with my banding lines, my top and my top and my bottom banding line, and then I look at the pot and study it, and it kind of tells me what design is going to go on there. So it kind of it has to fit the shape of the pot too, and the flow, and all these things, and um, it's not just throwing this design on there just because, but the designs have meaning too, and they fit the certain pot in a certain way, and um, including the meaning of those designs and what the jar or the bowl or whatever its function was ties into what the designs are too.
You can see on this piece right here, there's rain clouds, there's plant life, there's lightning, there's feathers. These are all the things that we need to survive at a very basic level, up kind of about these diagrams, and these almost in a way describe kind of the cycle of survival, within our culture. What do these upside down rain clouds mean? And I think that's in a way, I don't think these are rain clouds. I think they more have to do with groundwater and the kind of the cyclical nature. The water that's collected, eventually will come back up and become rainwater again. So I think this has to do more with water already being collected and water that's, so these are like water hydrology, I guess, hydrology diagrams on a very, fundamental level. There's a simplicity in them, and there is a balance between light and dark that resonate with me, that I find comfort in, that I find peace in. And maybe that's what draws me to them. And that's also what compels me to paint these patterns as well, paint these designs as well. I mean, look at this. There's different types of pottery that are very intricate, where every single part of the clay body has a detail or a feature. But if you look at all of these from an artistic standpoint, there's such a play on positive and negative space. There's balance. And, although it looks balanced visually, I think there's a reason why, I guess you can say, there's so few designs. I think the whole theme of balance is, something that plays into the designs as well. Balance in life, balance in how we think, how we feel, everything that we do, there needs to be that balance. There's a word, the Kara's word for road is hiawa, and that not only talks about a path, but it also indicates something larger. That's the path that you walk throughout your life, and staying on that path is a balancing act as well. And I think that's, in another way, that's what we see here. And I think a lot of these are the paths as well. The paths that we see here are also, the hiawa, the road that, compels us to do the right thing, to walk the good walk, I guess.
For myself, I selected the the large pieces, and I'm always inspired by the our elders that made these large pieces of pottery and how they were able to uh, fire them and build them and paint them, and with all the gathering of all the materials, and I just picture them in my mind how when I do my pottery, how much work I have to put in there just to make a large pot. So I am so inspired by how much work that they probably have put in to do a large piece of pot, and then the designs, they're so beautiful, and the designs usually tell a story on the pottery, and you can just look at the designs and just imagine what they were thinking, and what how much thought they put into designing a pot, and they're so beautiful. So I just love making the large pieces of pottery because of the beautiful designs that they put on, and how much work that they had to put in just to fire that piece of big pottery with the open uh, grill, homemade kiln with the firewood, and then the manure that we have to use just to fire big pots, and it's very hard. And that's the inspiration that I get when I see those big pots, and I just want to create the large pieces too myself. Yeah, so I just love to look at those big pots.